And we're going live?
We are live.
Okay. Welcome to the studio and to the first of our new series called In Conversation With. And it is my great privilege to have one of the best in the business. He grew up in the business. He is articulate. He is kind. He loves actors. He loves giving back. And he's here today at his suggestion because he wanted to donate his time.
It's uncomfortable.
To come and talk to you, and I couldn't be more delighted to have Mr. Brian Medavoy. First question is from me, and then I will read questions from out here, and that is your story. A little bit about the story that they may not know, especially.
First, let me say that I audited your class about 5 years ago, and I left trembling and wide-eyed, and I was like, oh my God. Because I think I was going to speak at that point, but I realized at that moment that I wasn't prepared for it. I'd never seen anybody give as much love and as much discipline at the same time, calibrated the way that you did, and it was incredible. And I was really moved by it. I'm here for a number of reasons. One, Lori Loughlin was my first client in the business and introduced me to Howard. Great story about Lori. When I first became a manager, my father did a movie called Secret Admirer, and I fell in love with her. And when I became a manager, she was the first person I called. And I was so nervous when I got her on the phone. I was like, hi, Lori. And she'd go, hi, Brian. I'd go, hi, Lori. And she'd go, hi, Brian. Hi, Lori. And finally she said, Brian, are you calling me for a date or are you calling me for management? And I said, which one don't you have? so she became a client for 12 years. And that's how we originally met. I'm also here because of your puppy video.
Oh. Let's hear it for Ernie.
I'm here because I've been reading your blogs. It should move me. And I'm a firm believer that whatever moves you, do something about. And I wrote down some of your quotes that moved me. With great talent comes great insecurity. Stop planning the how and focus on the why. Focus on sharing your knowledge and enjoy doing so. The more you do outside of acting class to develop yourself, the better. What stops us in our lives stops us in our work. Interested people make for interesting actors. You have to develop yourself intellectually. You have to be honest with yourself. Self-awareness is the key. Thanks again, Howard. Appreciate it. Did you not bring that photo up? I have a photo actually. Oh, it is? No, I didn't bring it. I did bring it, it's out there somewhere. Nobody knows this, but I was an actor. I started as an actor, and I sucked. I knew it. I did a couple plays in college and did a few movies. I got into it primarily because my mother was a music teacher, and when I was younger, she used to force me to go to all the musicals and all the plays. And I was the only guy at 9, 10 years old who knew. I saw every live theater from Sonny and Cher to ice skating, and I knew the difference between a double toe loop and a triple sow cow. I was so moved by the way that the actors and the live performers made people feel. I always, whenever I go to plays now, whether it's Kinky Boots or whatever it is, it could be Cirque du Soleil, in that moment of passion, I always turn around and I look back and I just see those people's expressions on their face, and they're just priceless. And so, I always wanted to bring that to other people, bring that joy to other people. And so I tried the acting, but it wasn't my calling, so I decided to represent them instead. I grew up in Hollywood. Wasn't as rosy as everybody thinks. Being a son of somebody in Hollywood was definitely not easy. I lived with my mom till I was 10, and I moved in with my father, and he was producing Apocalypse Now, and Rocky, and Cuckoo's Nest, and Annie Hall, and some great movies. It was very chaotic. I went through 8 marriages, not mine, and about 10 different schools. And so I learned what to do professionally, but I never really learned what to do personally. I was always around successful people in all walks of life. My father was never myopic about Hollywood. So I was around Lee Iacocca when he turned around Chrysler, and I was around Governor of Hong Kong, Chris Patton, and Jerry Brown, first time. And so I learned what made them unique. You know, there was a handshake. There was something about each one of those individuals that stood out, that you just didn't forget them. There's one quote that I love. There's about 4 quotes that changed my life. One quote was Maya Angelou said, "People will always forget what you said, people will always forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." And that quote pretty much was a big impact on my life. And so as I was going through, I graduated from school, from college, and then I started in the mailroom at ICM. Before that, while I was at UCLA, I worked for Mike Ovitz at CAA. I went to ICM because they didn't have drivers. You know, I mean, they had drivers, so I didn't have to drive everywhere like you did at CAA. And I trained under Ed L'Amato, who was one of the best. I miss him. I left ICM. I couldn't figure out if I hated being a son of or if I hated Tracy Jacobs. Sorry.
You're on air.
Sorry. Tracy. It's not going to give me anything anyway. And I went to Intertalent. And in Intertalent, I ended up getting fired. I told my father something confidential and got back to the owner of the company. And nobody would hire me at that time except for a man named Irwin Moore, who I've been with for 25 years. So I worked for Irwin at Larry Thompson Organization. At this time, there was only 5 management companies. You know, now there's like 500,000. And I signed unknowns, Tobey Maguire and Jason Bateman and a few others. And Craig Sheffer, they were casting The River Runs Through It, and River Phoenix passed away. And my father never gave me anything, so he never gave me a penny or a client to this day. So I've been pretty bold about using my relationships, and so I called Redford, who I grew up with, and I said, Bob, will you see my client for this part? He was to play Brad Pitt's brother in that, and River Phoenix was supposed to play that, and when he passed away, I waited a little while, and he said, that's not how we do it around here. Call the casting director. And I said, well, I've known you, and he said, well, I can't do that. And I said, well, you watch a tape? And he said, sure. And so I put this tape together of Craig, and I drove it down to Redford's office, and he saw me in the lobby, and he called me into his office, and he said, you know what? Because of your tenacity, I'm going to give your client a shot. And he got the movie. And it was at that moment that I realized that I was in my strike zone. I think that God has given us all a gift, and if you understand what your gift is, and you use it to help others, you get back spiritually, financially, however you want to look at it. And so from that moment on, I signed unknowns, and I was on my way to William Morris to become an agent. I didn't love the company I was at, and Irwin said, "Why don't we start our own company?" And I said, "Because we don't have any money." And I went to my father's office to ask for money, and he said no, and stole a typewriter from the TriStar mailroom and started more Medavoy in 1980. Started more Medavoy in 1989, and it was an amazing run, and I handled from Maria Bello to Ryan Reynolds to Josh Brolin, Jason Bateman, great clients, David Schwimmer. They were all unknowns, and as I was going up in life, I think because of my childhood was so chaotic, it was the only thing I understood was chaos, and so I didn't feel like I just deserved all the success that I had, and I sabotaged it in every which way I could. You couldn't hug me, you couldn't love me, and so anytime something good came into my life, I would sabotage it, and you can read between the lines, and so that got worse and worse as I became more and more successful. By this time, I'm producing Dharma and Greg and Just Shoot Me, and not feeling good about it, but not feeling good about it, if you know what I mean. And so I looked at Irwin as my problem was still a secret, and I told him we needed to grow the company. And why did I want to grow the company? I had too many eyes on me, and I felt like if I had more bodies around me. And I 360. It was called TEG, and I was there for a little while, and then I was at my worst, and I was still in denial, and I ended up going to anonymous content and worked there for a little bit, and got my first check for Darwin and Greg, and I looked at it, and I said, wow, this is a lot of money. I got a problem too. This is not good. And I ended up quitting, and I left the business and gave all my clients to my old assistants and our managers, and I left and went and got help and drove the country afterwards, and drove to Whitefish, Montana, and I ended up after recovery, I went to I was just going to drive the country, and I ended up stopping there, and I never left, and I lived there for 7 years, and I came back here about 8 years ago. I had no idea what I was going to do. I wasn't going to do this, that was for sure. Anything but Hollywood. And I got some phone calls from Jason Bateman and from my old assistants who said to me, we hear you're back in town, and I said, I am. They said, if it wasn't for you, we'd never be in this place. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, I helped a lot of people at half of where I'm at. What if I were to go back into this and do it over, with a new pair of eyes, and just do it because I want to help people. And so I started over 8 years ago with nothing, and it's been an amazing ride. And so my story is basically I went up really fast and I went down really hard, and now I'm back, or I'm on my way back.
That's beautiful. That was more things than I knew. Okay, first question, I'm going to read it, but I'll also ask the person who is here to stand. It's Matthew. And Matthew asks, in your blog post, quote, you have to sign the town before you sign the town. You mention the follow-up. Will you go into more depth on cultivating relationships and great ways to remain at the forefront of their minds?
I always tell my employees, make sure you don't want them to hate you, make sure they love you, or at least try to, but just make sure they don't forget you somehow. And the question is really, how do you, there's a couple of questions there. How do you build those relationships? How do you cover the town? I think the town, truthfully, is really small. And for most people that are moving here, it seems daunting and large, but it's actually really small. And if you just make it smaller, and you have strategies, you can navigate it. And truthfully, when I came back and didn't have any clients, I didn't have anything to sell. And usually, if you don't have anything to sell somebody, they don't want to give you something, right? So I just shared my story with people and remained humble, But I had strategies. When I came back, I met with all the photographers. Why? Because nobody does it. And what do they do all day? They shoot actors. I spoke at some acting classes.
There were others?
Wow. So I definitely I didn't go back to my friends who are now running the studios and say, hey, I'm back. I had to prove it first. I had to earn my stripes and come back and so I've always had pretty good self-awareness. I think something that you talked about. It's really important. And so I just hustled it. And a casting director named Matt Skrabalik said, I have this actress who's never acted before, and you should meet her. And she met a number of people, and she walked into my office. Her name is Bella Heathcote, and they were casting Dark Shadows. And I did the same thing that I did with Redford with Dick Zanuck, who wouldn't see her. And I asked him 5 times, and finally he saw her, and she ended up booking that movie. So it was that moment again that I realized that I was in the right place. I don't know if I answered that question the right way, but
thank you. This is from Shay. Okay, stand up. What are your favorite clients doing to further their own careers? What makes your job easier? Social media, networking, self-producing?
My favorite clients. It's an interesting way of phrasing it. Wherever your head is at is what gravitates towards you. So, I have I love my clients. I do, and I won't work with anybody that I don't love, or that doesn't move me. I think that the why is so important. I may skip off the questions a little bit, but my clients, and you say favorite clients, they all have an understanding of why they're doing this. And I think that Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think it's really important for you to understand why you're doing this. What's your purpose? Why do you get up in the morning? Not only why, but how do you look at the Academy Awards? I mean, when you watch the Academy Awards, are you rooting for that person as a peer of yours that's winning, or are you pissed off that you're not up there, getting that award? Truthfully, I watch them for humility. I look for humility. I look for the little things. I get moved by Lady Gaga hugging Julie Andrews. The things that I get moved by the fact that they're like the awards to me are like the State of the Union. They kind of give you an understanding of where the business is. In terms of social media, oh boy, I wrote some things about social media. If I were to say to you 5 years ago, I can give you any amount of money and you can have your own show. You can produce it, you can do anything, you can, whatever you want to do, how would you feel? You would be so excited. Today you can. Today you can. You can have your own show. And that's amazing. There's this one line, Uber is the largest taxi company and owns no vehicles. Facebook, the world's most popular media owner, owns no content. Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate. Something interesting is happening. I think many artists don't learn marketing because they don't want to sell out. They want their work to be pure. Social media and marketing is nothing more than having your work be seen, truthfully. And I mean, you can have the cure for cancer and not have the wherewithal to get it out there. What's the point of that? For me, I love social media because it's about learning. I learn so I could add value, so I can come here and share it with people. There are endless possibilities with social media. I love the storytelling platform that it has. But if you're not willing to be authentic and vulnerable, and you don't want to learn, and you don't want to change your course, and you don't really want to be sincere, it's probably not for you. But for me, I felt a door closing on me, and I had to open up another door. And that's why I love social media.
Great. Let's take a question from Facebook.
We have a few people joining. I don't have any written down just yet.
Okay.
So we can take
All right,
one.
we will. This is from David. Coral, where are you? Okay. For an actor who's built a career steadily over the years, how does one make the jump to opportunities for series regular and roles in studio features? What gets your attention or people at your level of representation? Hashtag asking for a friend.
What gets my attention? I build stars from stars. Truthfully, I mean, when I'm in a, LA is so different than New York, Naked Angels, or Manhattan Theater Company, or the West End. LA, I've been here for 53 years, and I've learned how to being a producer and being in the rooms and being raised by a studio head and been in it for so long and looking at people's uniqueness. When I'm in a room with them, I feel like I put myself in a director's chair, and I'm able to look into people's eyes and see their desire. I can learn so much by people's eyes. They tell you everything. But you can't always see it. I mean, I'll never forget watching David Schwimmer. He one audition he did it in 5 different takes, and they were so completely different every take. So there's different reasons for different people, but again, it goes back to the why. I mean, I think that also, you know, information. We're in the information age, and so there's so many ways to learn about other people. You know, I get letters every day from actors, of which I return every single one of them. Why? Because nobody else does. You know, and but it's just there's just something special about somebody when they come into your room that the light's on, you know, and they want it, and I just love to help.
Great. Thank you. This is from Brooklyn. Ah, there she is. Okay. Do number of followers on social media matter when it comes to representation and casting?
Yes and no. I'm not going to suggest that. It depends on where somebody is in their life, and I'm not going to have somebody who's new to social media, who doesn't have a show or something, who's not, you know, if you're not on a show, if you don't have any followers and you're not on a show that's in the zeitgeist, you know, I'm probably going to figure out other ways to approach social media. There's many different ways. I don't think followers are the end-all, be-all, truthfully. I know there's so much talk about it, but you know, it depends on where you're at, and depends on, you know, what you're just, you know. I personally think I think blogging is a great beginning if you're not on social media. It just doesn't even have to be things that you're going to put out there, you know, out in the open. But I think blogging is, or just writing in general. You know, writing down things you're going to end up visualizing. And if you can't see something, if you can't see where you're going, it's going to be tough to get there. And I think by writing it out, it really helps. So I would start there if you're not, but I wouldn't get all caught up about how many followers you have. I think, but if you're on it, if, you know, I mean, I have a client who's on Criminal Minds who's, you know, active in social media, but not, and I'm asking him to step it up a little bit more now, because when that show has such a huge following, and when he leaves that show, what is he going to take with him? He's going to take those followers. So it depends on where you're at.
Thank you. This is from Parker. Oh. Suppose you have the luck to be a 40-something character actor instead of a 22-year-old model. How do you get a good manager to take a risk on you? Hashtag asking for help.
Kiss some serious ass. How do you take a risk? I love that part of it. How do you take a risk? I mean, no risk, no return, right? I think again, by doing your homework and understanding who somebody is, and not willing to take a no for an answer, and understanding who they are because of all the information and who you are, and how there are ways to get in with people and have and build a relationship with them because of the internet. And I think that's probably a good start. You know, I do get a lot of letters each day, and the letters that say, you know, I know what you did for Jenna Elfman, and, you know, she was a go-go dancer for ZZ Top, and I signed her basically, and so, you know, it's like, how do I say no to that person at that point, you know? So I think that's one way of doing it, but it's tough, but there, you know, in terms of the, you know, management agent, you know, which one and how to, you know, again, it depends on where you're at in your career. I mean, I think agents, for the most part, agencies have a lot of knowledge and, I mean, a lot of data. You know, you're able to get probably more appointments by going to an agency, but you should do your homework and know who's best for you, I guess. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
So that it's personalized when they approach someone, rather than a
Right.
general, I'm looking for representation.
Yeah, I think personalize everything.
That's excellent. Tim? Okay. finally have an agent, but I've only been sent to 2 auditions all year. I'm putting up my own play. What else could I be doing to get more work? Hashtag asking for a friend.
I don't know, asking for me.
You know what? I mean, Howard, you said it. You know, as I said, you know, there's so many things that you can do. I mean, all of you know, what I do for a living is you know, I'm a talent manager, but really I'm a coach. Really, I'm a catalyst. Really, you know, I could be doing any job. I mean, you know, one of the great documentaries I love is Shep Gordon. This documentary is called Supermensch, and the reason I love it is because he was a manager. He was a great manager, but he really just followed his passions. So you know, I think that you know, personally, do what's uncomfortable. You know, every day. You know, you know, find 3 little wins a day. You know, write it. Something moves you, do something about it. If you're moved by a television show, write the casting director a note. You know, and don't think about anything in return. I would stay out of the results. I mean, if you're A and you want to get to C, it's B that matters. It's in the journey. You know, so there's a lot that you can do. Create your own. You can create your own. Louis C.K. was a great example of somebody who was struggling for a long, long time, and he created his own path. You know, I wrote a blog called Hollywood versus Hollywouldn't. Because there's so many great stories of people that have, I mean, you know, whether it's Clooney on, you know, 17 Pilots, or Jack Nicholson, you know, getting turned down before he, you know, getting pale, no, Easy Rider at you know, I mean, there's so many. I just don't give up. Just don't give up. So there's a lot that you can do each day. I used to say to actors all the time, or it used to be about. I think this will be the next blog. It used to be about what I can do for you. It's now about what we can do together. And I think that's accepted now, because there's so much information now, and there's so many different ways to make it. But you can create your own destiny. At the end of the day, we work for you, and we're the bullets and you're the gun, and you've got to point the gun. So the more information you have, the more knowledge you have, the more desire you have, the easier it is going to be for you to speak the language and be able to push other people and get people to. But now that you have an agent, there's another job. How to get the most out of your agent. That's a whole other job.
I think they would all probably want to hear the answer to that.
Yes.
It's the little things. You know, again, I just said information. If you're calling your agent and saying, "Where's my opportunities?" Not the greatest thing to say. You know, read deadline, read back. What are they? Back page. Read whatever it is that you can read to find out the information. And when they do something for you, just a small thank you. I mean, you'd be amazed at how many stories that we as representatives hear about how people just, you know, we don't get the thank yous, or we don't, you know. And there are definite ways to get the most out of people, and you know, little things.
Okay. This is from Chris. Hardall. Yeah, there it is. Okay. How important is a publicist in being a catalyst for getting more exposure for an actor, with a couple of bigger movies coming out?
How is it important to have a publicist?
Yeah, if you've got some movies coming out, would help get you to the next level.
Hashtag asking for a friend.
Yeah. He also wanted to know how you met Jenna Elfman.
That's our Sprite commercial. Believe it or not. So you have a couple of movies coming out, and you're wondering if you should get a publicist. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
I would say that does the publicist have knowledge of is there a hybrid of publicity and social media together? I would think that would be a really important thing at this point. You know, but you know, again, how you promote yourself, there is a really classy and intelligent way to do it, and it you know, and it comes down to, I mean, what is your desire? What is it that drives you?
the idea of giving somebody catharsis, making people feel it's okay to make mistakes and heal. And I think that's something that's really important, especially now. I know growing up, I had a lot of issues with temper and violence, and I grew up around that. And I want people to know that instead of shying away from it and saying, that's not me, I don't do that, I don't do this, I don't do that, it's okay to heal and become a better person. And I really think that's our job as artists. And I'm 45. It's taken me 20 years to realize that that's what it is, and not just, I want to be famous. But that's my desire, to really make people feel that they can relate to me, the everyday person who lives in Montana, and heal and understand and become a better person.
Right. Well, it sounds like your reason, your why is in the right place, and so I think people will pick up on that however you want to promote it, and it depends on the part. It depends on, I always tell my clients who are, I have a client who's doing The Equalizer right now, the Antoine Fuqua, and it's a very small part. But from my point of view, he's won the Academy Award till the day it comes out. So it's life is about momentum, and you just never want to stop moving. It's keep the inertia going all the time. However you can do that. Let me read a few other quotes that move me, because I think it's important. My mission, the first one being, people always forget. You said people always forget what you did. Maya Angelou also said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do this with some passion and some compassion." There was a letter that my father wrote me when I was in boarding school that always has stayed with me. And in the letter, he said, "Because of the community we live in, where people and things can be larger than life, and reality takes place in that rarefied air at the top, it's easy to get the wrong idea about what a person should be. We live in a time that puts tremendous emphasis on material things and instant gratification, but you must never lose sight of what it means to carry real values within your life. If I teach you nothing else, you are a success in my eyes and your grandparents' eyes if you aspire to be an honorable man, a good person, good to others, helpful to those less fortunate yourself, carving a way through life that is above board, open and honest and respectful, genuinely courteous, taking responsibility for your actions, not trying to blame the next employee or your background and upbringing or anyone other than yourself when you step out of line. Far better than that, you should learn from your mistakes so you can move on in progress." I'll never, that to me is one of the greatest things that I learned from my father. Success is measured by what you do for others. So I appreciated that. And let's keep going. It's about the individual, by the way. Publicist. It's when I add somebody to a client's team, I look for their relationships, but I look for who cares. It's a simple thing to say, but it's like these trainers I see sometimes. I actually haven't seen them in a while. But these trainers, they go up to you and they say, I'll meet you at the gym at 3 o'clock and we'll work out from 3 to 4. No. How about if they do what Howard does? And the reason Howard is so great is because he makes each one of you his project. Can you imagine a trainer going up to you and saying, you know what? And looking into your eyes and saying, you know what? I'm going to make you my project. It's a lot better. I'll meet you at the gym from 3 to 4. Yeah. So is that publicist care? How do you find out?
Beautifully said. Brooke, what is the one mistake that you see newer actors making when beginning their career, and what is your advice for remedying it?
When I walk through Beverly Hills sometimes at lunch, I see agents at the smaller agencies on their phone, looking like, oh my God, they just look like they're, and meanwhile they got, they probably nobody on their client list, and they look like and then you see these agents at the larger agencies with, Meryl Streep and huge problems, and just walking down, they're all calm, but on the inside they're moving, right? And so I think that calibration between how badly you want it and how much, when to show it and when not to show it is really important. I'm in these rooms. I've been in these rooms a lot, so I'm starting to get into this now. So I sit in these rooms and I watch people, and I've learned so much through doing that. The actors that come in and have an idea about a role and think about being great or shitty because they've taken a chance, and then just put the signs down and just walk out and say thank you, are much more interesting than the ones that actually finish and look up for affirmation. I think you have to have an idea about who this character is and go for it in this day and age. So I think on the inside you can want it and do everything, but on the outside I think there needs to be a certain degree of calculated an approach to it all. It's a business. Again, LA it's unfortunate, but it's not always about talent that gets you your break. Talent creates longevity with it, but how you navigate Hollywood is what kind of gets you your break. Navigating Hollywood, there's so many jobs, unfortunately. I know you've all felt so different about being on the set than it is actually trying to get that job. It's a big difference. But there's so many jobs. How do you get an agent, and how do you get the most out of an agent, and then but there's so many barometers. If I'm an actor, how do you feel when you're driving to the audition? What kind of mindset are you in? And when you leave the audition, are you drained, right? And the other thing is that I think you should stay out of the results. Just make are you pleased with the work that you've done? That's really all that matters. I think the more it's like the more you want to make money, the less you make. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I've always operated from a complete, here I am, this is who I am. It works more now than it probably worked before because of the millennials. Everybody's on their phones here, and so people are looking for authenticity. People are looking for feel-good stories. If you look at the movies that are working, Beauty and the Beast, or La La Land. These are all movies that are making people feel good. Just give and just keep giving and be open and don't be afraid to be vulnerable and fail a lot. Fail a lot.
We have something from Facebook?
Oh.
Yeah, okay. This is from Aaron Ray. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Aaron.
And if you are enjoying this talk, please like us on Facebook. We have a reminder from For actors who wear many hats, do the many hyphens, actor, writer, director, etc., come in handy? Is it a good thing?
It's not a bad thing. But I think Warren Buffett just did something great on Charlie Rose the other night, and they asked him if he knew anything about social media and the tech world. He said, I know my 5%. That's a big 5%. I think that Jim Carrey did a lot of comedies before he did that movie with Peter Weir. I think you need to know what your strength is and go at your strength. And that's self-awareness. And I think you go at your strength, so I would say that I think it's difficult to be great at so many different things, have you seen that Spielberg documentary? I don't know if you've seen it. It's amazing. He stuck with what he knew. All those movies, Jurassic and Close Encounters, they're all about his childhood. So what he knew, this is what he understood. What's amazing about him is, to completely go into another direction, do Schindler's List. That's amazing. But I would say that focus on your strength but to have all those things in your back pocket is only, more, it'll add more confidence.
So this is me being high-tech, Facebook world. If you have questions for Brian Medavoy, send them in. Like us on Facebook, give us thumbs up. Becky and Ian are smiling at me, and I'm reached the new century, Brian. This is from Nick Dubberly. Where are you, Nick? Okay, and that is, at what career stage does an actor really need a manager?
At what career stage does an actor need a manager? I'll give you some tips again on the manager agent thing. Again, it goes back to the individual. At an agency, it doesn't really matter if it's CA or if it's a smaller agency. It really matters because you're usually only going to get one or two people, and so again, it goes back to who cares, and who has also, who has relationships. I mean, where you get somebody in your life, and how you make that decision is so important. Actually, where are they in their life? Are they, because if they're up here and I think they have to, that whoever that manager is has to need you, and has to have the motivation to build your career, because if he makes your career, then his career becomes something of value. But in terms of an agent or a manager, whoever it is, I would make sure that you get that one person first and build a relationship with them before you add something else to it, and do those little things that I talked about. I think that's really important. I don't know if you're right, I'm on Facebook Live, but to me the difference between an agent and a manager is for the most part, managers are like architects and agents are like contractors. It's a decent analogy, I think. Managers have fewer clients for the most part. They can give you more attention, but they probably aren't going to have as many appointments. You're probably not going to have as many appointments, possibly. So it depends on where you are in your life, I guess.
What should they look for when they're selecting a manager?
What should they look for?
In the manager.
In the manager?
Because, as you know, so many people hang out a shingle.
Yeah.
And they don't have the contacts to help anybody.
Yeah. If you are listen, there's so many managers now. There's like 500,000 managers. I mean, you can get a meeting with a manager a lot easier than you can get a meeting with an agent today. I mean, and so if you're deciding between one or two or three managers, I mean, why don't you just put yourself visually in a cab in New York City on the way to the upfronts, and look to your left and look to your right, and how does each one make you feel? Who do you want to represent you? Who do you want to represent you? Who's going to be an extension of you? Who do you feel proud to be partnered with? Because your manager is like a partner. It's definitely like that. It should be your partner at the end of the day.
Oh, thank you. This is from M. Hayward Scott. As an older actor who returned to the business after 30 years, getting the first union TV film job is proving difficult. Agents, managers haven't gotten me in the room after a year, though I've worked steadily in non-union. What can I be doing to get in the room?
So the beginning of that, the first part sounded like me. What did it say?
As an older actor,
As an older manager who'd been gone for what? What did you say?
I think it was 30 years.
30 years. What do I need to do in order to get?
What can I be doing on my end to help them?
To help them make it easier for you?
Yeah.
Seems to be a universal
Yeah.
theme here. How do I get more opportunities?
Yes, that's the rub, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you create your own destiny today. You can create your own destiny today. I personally, if I'm an actor, I'm not waiting for my manager or agent to call me with auditions. Hell no. I am not waiting for that. I am going to create. I'm going to figure out, whatever it is, and there's so many different ways to do that. I mean, I have a client, I love developing, you know, truthfully, because there's something so gratifying about it. And I've had a number of clients that don't have, in the years past, that don't have reels, right? You know, years past, self-tapes were impossible to get a job from. Today, everybody's booking jobs from self-tapes. I mean, what are they doing when you're in an audition? They're taping you. So you're getting those jobs from self-tapes anyway. I've had clients put together, you know, 3 great self-tapes that you can control, right? And I'll tell the casting director, I'm in the process of putting a reel together. Here, look at this. Whatever it is that you got to do to show your work, do it. You know. But I would do self-tapes. I would create. I would find monologues that move you and put them down. I would help other actors. You know, there's something to be said about you know, wanting to be successful because you want to help others. And I think you'll end up. Listen, I don't think I would be back in this club unless my why was right. You know, was in the right place. We're obviously in difficult times, and you know, and you can be whoever it is that you want to be. From my point of view, as long as your heart's in the right place, and people will pick up on that. People will pick up on that. I mean, if I figure out how to get breakdowns, figure out whatever it is that you got to do. You know, you got to do it. But it's tough. I get it.
Thank you.
I get it.
Do we have anything else from Facebook? No, then I'm going to ask the next question. And that is, when somebody comes to interview you, just in that talk that they have, what turns you on, what turns you off?
Interview me for what?
If you're bringing somebody in for as a potential client, and you're interviewing them,
Mm-hmm.
what are the turn-ons for you, and what are the turn-offs for you?
The turn-ons. That's a good question. You know, when an actor comes in, and I've had actors come in and say, you know, I should be Denzel. That's a turn-off. Because Denzel, the more you want to be Denzel, the less you're ever going to be Denzel. Be yourself. Be yourself. You know, Denzel is Denzel because of he took Sidney Poitier's parts. Maybe, I don't know, timing. I mean, so just be yourself. You know, it's a hard question for me to answer because I don't think as much with my brain as I think with my heart. You know, and what moves me, and I can just.
So it's a visceral reaction.
Yeah, you know.
And what do you know that turns you off? It's the Denzel, that type of thing, and.
That turns me off. You know, I always ask that question. You know, why is it that you're doing this? What is it that drives you? I mean, that's a question I ask all the time, and it's because it tells me a lot about, you know, if all you want to do is make money and win awards, it's going to be tougher to do both of those. You know, I love your response. You know, but if it's those, you know, I started this off by saying, you know, why I got into this. I got into this because of the way actors and live performers made people feel. And if that person is in this to move people and to make a difference in life, especially in difficult times, I'll feel it. You know, I just will. You can't fool people today. I don't think. It's pretty hard. People will pick up on, and in terms of social media, if you're not willing to be real with it and you're not willing to give and take, I wouldn't even go near it because people are going to pick up on it. So the other thing is I go back to information. I mean, it's amazing how much information there is now. I think, you know, I think one of the reasons is David Schwimmer signed with me, and I'll say it to you. I knew when I meet, listen, I'm up against things as well, right? I came back with no clients, right? And after having a business that I had, and so I had to think about how I was gonna do things differently. Paula Patton was a client, and she was meeting with 10 management companies, and I knew I didn't have a shot at that, and I found out she didn't have a reel, and I actually spent out of my own pocket and spent 4 hours putting together a reel of her movies and showed it to her, and ended up signing her. So you got to, David Schwimmer. I knew his favorite book. I knew his mother's name, Arlene. I knew everything about that. I knew everything about David Schwimmer before I met him. And when somehow we got into books, I talked about Dostoevsky, and I said, it'd be a great idea to do a movie about the idiot. I ended up signing him, so do whatever it is you can do.
Well, what you're saying is so great, and that is if you go in for an interview with someone, have a reason and a way to connect. That's wonderful. When you send a client on an audition, what do you expect?
For them to be off book.
You may not know this, but I was on a panel recently for SAG, and there was quite an argument among the acting coaches, and yours truly made quite the strong point. Be off. What actor ever got better holding a script?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, I told you that. So what was your question again?
So what do you expect of your clients when you send them on an audition? In terms of preparation or what you want them to do?
Oh, God. I tell you one of the things that is a big turnoff, actually, is when you get an opportunity, when you give an opportunity to somebody and it's just so difficult to, get them the information, or that they need the sides again, or they're not prepared. This is your job. This is your job, and just go in and just have fun with it. Don't put so much pressure on. I think there's just too much pressure on having to book a job. Again, the more you want to book a job, the less jobs you book. Just go in there and do the best that you can for yourself, and have fun with it, and be great or shitty, as I've said. Because you've taken a chance, you've taken a risk, you have an idea about who that character is, and if you've gotten a few auditions, call up your agent or manager or send them an email and just say thank you. Be amazed at what a huge difference that makes. Makes the agent and the manager work a lot harder for those people that are appreciative.
What ways do actors come to your attention? And don't say I can refer them, otherwise some of the room.
What ways do they come to me?
What ways do they come to your attention? Are you watching social media? Are you do you ever go to the theater? Do you have an assistant who will do that? How do actors come to your attention?
My eyes are. The great thing about having your own business is that every minute is. I'm alive. So truthfully, I went up in life and went down really hard, and this is much more interesting than going straight up. And because I've been down, I won an Emmy and I woke up and I was at Betty Ford. I had no idea how I got there. I had a flashlight in my eye. I woke up at 2 a.m. And here I am back. So I'm taking inspiration from everything. And that's why I love social media. That's why I love these websites. That's why I love all these documentaries. And so I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it in my everyday life. I'm feeling this room. So I don't know how to answer that question other than when something moves me, I do something about it. Too often, people, something moves them and they don't do anything about it. It drives me insane. Sometimes I have these staff meetings, and I've had these staff meetings where an employee will say, I said, what did you, I have a newsletter called The Cream, right? The Cream Rises to the Top. It's about what you've seen, heard, and felt. And I'll ask an assistant or an employee throughout the years, what is it you read? I read this great script. And I'll say, what did you do about it? And I said, what do you mean what I do about it? Well, if you read a great script, you need to call it. There's so much you can do about that. There's so many things that you can call the writer's agent. You can you call the author. I mean, there's a ton that you can do. So if something moves you, I just say do something about it. You'd be amazed at how many people don't.
So do you think there are more opportunities today to put work out there than there ever was?
Absolutely, absolutely. Having, I think a lot goes into having the right publicist, the right agent, the right manager. I mean, that's a really difficult thing to figure out. I think that, if you're meeting with a bunch of managers or a bunch of, and you got 5 meetings, pick 2 and then ask that person for dinner. Or if you've written a script or something, you send that to the manager and see how long it takes them to read it and get back to you. There are little things that you can do to find out about who that right person is. I never answer these questions properly, but I just kind
Well, you're getting there. Okay. Are you on Facebook? Send us your questions and like our page. Did I do that?
Howard, why are you going on social media so much?
Because of you.
No.
Yes. Yes, actually.
Because
of your blogging and the way you put yourself out there. That's been inspiring. And I also have a wonderful administrative director and office manager, Becky and Ian over there, who are trying to bring me into the new world.
Becky, yeah.
Because I sit with a stone tablet and...
Did I bring out my papers now?
No, you can't. Where was I?
I threw you off social media.
Yes, take your question from Facebook. Okay. Oh, this is from the Australian studio.
Oh,
How many Australians here?
awesome.
Paul, Nick, Lauren. Okay. Any specific advice to actors moving to LA from an overseas market, Australia? Shout out to the Australian studio. Yes, we do. And also, do they need to have an American accent?
I think an accent. I think the accent is important.
So they've got to develop.
And I think again, or just to work on it. I mean, you have to work on, whatever your weaknesses are. If you're a great dramatic actor, you work on your comedy here. I think if you work on your comedy, it's going to help your drama, your dramatic stuff. So you got to work on your accent. I always get, the Aussies seem to book every job, don't they? What is it about that? The Aussies booking all these jobs, and they come and hey, mate,
I have a studio in Australia.
hey mate, they read and they just put it down, thank you, and then you're like, well, we gotta have them.
They're nice people.
They're
nice people.
They're nice people, and they drink a lot of beer.
They drink a lot of everything.
But you know what?
The Aussies drink.
They're very trained. They're very trained. The
Yes.
Aussies. They're very well trained in Woolloomooloo. And you almost get the sense that they don't really, this doesn't really matter to them, but it really does, and you know it does because you can tell how trained they are. And that's part of that auditioning process that I talked about that is so important, I think.
So there might be a zest for life that comes from them.
Yeah. I mean, I also think back to these casting rooms. You really have to know what your niche is to get rich. Niche to get rich. I think if you look, when it comes to kid actors, I mean, if you look at, I watch a lot of. You asked me what I looked at. Interviews. I look at interviews. If you look at interviews, you really get to see what that person is like. If you look at all these kid actors, Drew Barrymore early on, or whoever they are, when they're doing these interviews, they're like 10 years old going on 30. They kind of talk like they're an adult, and it's and I find a lot of those are the ones that get hired. I think in LA too. I mean, if you look at actors in their first beginning roles, whether it's Channing Tatum in Step Up or whatever it is, they're getting cast as what they come off as when they first walk into the room. For the most part, before they're even getting hired, so knowing whether you're in a lead or a character actor or a character lead, knowing who you are and where you are, and knowing where your place is, and going at that is going to be really, I think, extremely extremely important, and not trying to be so many different things.
Once an actor starts to have a splash of success, how should they conduct themselves? In other words,
Oh,
is
boy,
getting
that's
into the
a-
tabloids a good thing? Is being out at the clubs a good thing?
Listen, I think that, I think, listen, I talk about how I went up and I went down really hard. I mean, I think that there's no difference between when you're riding high is actually when you need to give more. Because we all go through peaks and valleys in life. And for me, we're gonna, I'm not a huge God believer, but God is karma. And when you're up, and if you're not treating people well, if you're not humble, when you do go down, you're gonna stay in that valley a lot longer. And so, I think that as you're going up, you need to give more and be more humble, and you'll have more success.
Is there a benefit to socializing and trying to meet people at parties and networking that way?
I used to network all the time when I was younger, and I would go to these parties, and I remember just walking around and just like going through and you end up leaving with nothing. I think if you learn, now I go in and sometimes, and I don't really like to go to all these parties now, but I sometimes, before I go into a party, I just close my eyes and I just think about connecting with one or two people. And I usually just sit in one place now because it all comes around. So I think that if you're going to go out, look to make a connection with one or two people, and relationships are the key. I don't really think it's an actor's job to jot down every single casting director and go at it like a business, but truthfully, I tell my clients to put together a business plan. I think that the actors that have made it in this town are the ones that know how to combine their craft with the way that the town works. When you know how the town works and your craft, and you put those two together, it's usually when your career takes off. More so in LA than anywhere else. LA is a business.
Sorry, still writing.
We're sorry,
Okay.
question down.
Is branding something that you think about when looking at your actors? Branding. I hear the word bandied about a lot.
Yeah, I'm constantly aware of that. I'm building brands. I think we're all a brand. And so yeah, it's definitely something I'm aware of.
Good. Let's take some questions that haven't been asked. Who hasn't asked a question that wants to? Yes. Stand up, say your name. And I'll repeat it so that everybody can hear.
Hi, my name is Rod Johnson, and my question is if you had 1 extra hour in your day as a manager and unlimited energy to do it, like let's say you had a clone of you who would come in while you could take a nap for an hour, you could come in and just work for you, how would you use this extra hour of untapped energy?
I'd get in the gym like you.
Excellent point. Who hasn't asked a question?
What would I do with an extra hour?
Yeah, but as a manager.
As a manager?
Yeah, like would it be reading script? Would it be searching for new talent?
I would probably actually sit quietly and actually think. I used to have to just, I remember having to constantly set up generals for clients to prove that I knew and had these relationships, right? And actually today, I just sometimes need to think more about how to build somebody's brand, right? And you'd be amazed at how much of a difference that can actually make, that hour, just to be able to sit down and think about how to capitalize on this moment, or how to keep the momentum going, or how to fill the voids. And I would probably use that hour. I go with the negative a lot. I would use that hour to go. Usually people that come to a manager, you got to remember, when I started, there were 5 management companies: Brillstein Gray, 3 Arts, Addis Wexler, You know, Dolores Robinson, you know, there's only a few. You know, managers are for rock stars. You know, I used to have to convince people why they needed a manager, or you know, or what a manager did. Today, you don't have to do that. Today, you gotta beat out the other 500,000, right? And so, I don't get too consumed by signing because it's more of the results. I get consumed by just doing the best job. So I would spend that hour trying to figure out how I could do a better job, I guess.
Great. Yes.
Brian Washington.
Good man.
You've been around this business your whole life, and in just the last 8 years, due to technology, we've seen just major shifts in how we can put ourselves out there as actors, producers, whatever the case may be. Where do you see this in the next 5 to 10 years going? Where do you think those forward-thinking people should be angling towards?
This is a man that actually. When did you? He probably started me in social media, right? And I think when you came to my house, I probably didn't even know how to spell the word computer. And it wasn't that long ago. I mean, it's definitely
4 years.
How long?
4 years.
4 years, yeah. So where do I think it's all going? It's $1 million question, right?
Yeah, right.
Does anybody really know where it's going? I don't think it's going away. That's for darn sure. You know, but I don't know where it's going. I mean, I think that you know, and the reason I say that is because I'm definitely thinking about, you know, I mean, you have to understand the business that you're in, and you have to know the business you're going to create. There's no doubt about it, right? And so, but I think you have to just be true to who you are, you know, and just keep doing what you're doing in the moment, and you'll end up, you know, finding and getting the results that you need, I guess. I don't really know where technology is going. I don't think it's, you know, I mean, you probably ask Amy Nevin that. Is it Amy here? But she would know. She'd ask her, where's it going, Amy?
Oh man, owning your audience is key. You know, if you can brand yourself in the right way and have an audience that cares, that opens the door for really whatever you want to put out there.
She's an amazing social media manager right here. Sorry, Amy.
Thank you. Okay, Facebook question. And send us your questions from Facebook.
And your likes.
Okay. And your likes, thank you. This is from Andrea Lessard. Best recommendations for actors with limited resume to get representation, if they do have training.
Best ways to get
Actors with limited resume to get representation.
I mean, there's, I guess, time spent is so important, right? Where you spend your time, where you are in your life, and you know, but there are agents, you know, that are best for kids. There's agents that are best for development. There's the medium-sized agencies. There's the, you know, the larger agencies. You just have to, again, have a self-awareness and be real with yourself and know where you're at. But I would look for that younger, not too young, but younger on the way up, you know, who needs to build your career, I guess. I mean, if you don't have any credits, I mean, showcases are a great idea. You know, there's so many ways through, again, Amy, you can probably help with this, so many ways through social media to get your message out there, and get people to see your work. I mean, Nick Stevens is a great agent, was at CAA, who I had lunch with not too long ago, who's done really well with the young kids, and he would always share with me, he never really watched what the young kids would watch. You know, I mean, how you look at things and how you know, why, again, I mean, why Brian Grazer? I mean, if you think about, you can figure out anybody's kind of path a little bit, you know. I mean, I look at Brian Grazer, somebody I admire. If you think about all his movies, right? Splash, Nutty Professor, Liar Liar, you know, Beautiful Mind. These are all movies that have a happy ending, that are fish out of water, right? and so you know if you've written something, what he's going to gravitate towards, right? Or if, and there's managers that represent great, Michael Green, one of the great agents in the business. He's now he's got some big stars, but he's made it through brilliant character actors, the Richard Schiffs of the world, and John Glovers, and so you can pretty much see through information what somebody does best, and if that coincides with.
So targeted, and should they use IMDb? That's one of the great sources to find out the client list, or.
Yeah, I mean, IMDb is before I have lunch with people that I don't know, that's why I started on social media through wanting to find out more about people through Facebook, because I wanted to have as much information about who I was having lunch with, whether I used it or not, or didn't really matter, but to have more information put me at ease, and I was able to go in any direction. The other reason I started, whether it's social media, again, you're going towards, I started on LinkedIn, and I didn't have any expectations. I just started writing some things down, and I saw the reaction I got, and it made me feel good, and I just wanted to give, and I just realized that I was able to give a lot of my mistakes. I mean, that's what it's all about, is making mistakes and sharing those with people.
Would you say it is best to have representation, or if you don't think it's going to be effective representation, to wait?
I don't understand. I hear stories all the time about actors that I hear it all the time. This agent just signed me and they're not sending me out. I don't understand that, to be honest with you.
Well, do you think it's because so many people hang out a shingle and say,
I think
I'm an
people are
agent,
throwing
I'm a
people
manager?
up against the wall to see what sticks, I guess. But there's no longer a pilot season. All year round is a pilot season, and I do hear that a lot, and I find it strange. I mean, I would never hip pocket a client. It's kind of the same thing in a lot of ways, and so you can feel if somebody's all in or not. I don't hip pocket a client. I don't believe in it. I mean, you tell somebody, well, let's see how it goes. Okay, then you get a big movie, and you're like, okay, here's the contract. That doesn't make any sense. You're either in or you're not, right? And so, if you're not getting auditions, there doesn't. It's okay as long as there is a strategy moving forward. What do we, and if you can't afford the photo shoot, the expensive photo shoot. Today, with these cameras that you can take great, at the right lighting, you can come up with great shots. I personally don't have, I like things that are a little bit off the beaten path. I like reels that are a little bit off the beaten path. I use like what I call tribute reels. They're a little bit more cinematic because they pull people's attention.
Let's talk about that, because I'm sure everybody wants to know what makes a good reel and what doesn't.
I think that, something that is.
How long should it be?
I think that it should be no longer than 3 to 5 minutes. But it depends. I mean,
you want to see those montages that everybody does?
I think that you should have 2 different types of reels. I think that the director that's thinking about hiring you is probably going to watch the 5 minutes. I think that the casting directors are probably going to watch the first
30 seconds.
Yeah, probably. I was going to say 2 minutes. No. Okay. Okay, so I was just trying to be nice.
We have to be real.
Yeah.
So they should have their best stuff in the first 30 seconds.
I think so, and get other opinions. I see a lot of actors put, make out scenes in the beginning of their reels, love scenes, and I always laugh at that. Why do they, no, you want to put your best stuff up at the front.
And yes to a montage or no?
Yeah, I think that if you're doing a longer 5-minute reel, I think that you want to hold people's attention. And I think that you start off with, you don't want the whole thing to be a montage, it's silly. But if you start off with 2, if you have 1 comedy scene and 1 dramatic scene and then a montage into the next scene, I think it's going to make it a lot more interesting for people to, to stay with it. I think, I look at it, I call them tribute reels, all of this, the reels and the self-tapes and Instagram and all of this is really just a place for you to just feel proud about what you've accomplished and what you've done. I look at Instagram as kind of my digital legacy. I just kind of put photos there that move me, and it's just a place for me to hold them. You know, that's the way I look at it, truthfully. And I look at social media as a place just to share and learn, so I can, and share and learn. Discover, adapt, what do I call it? Discover, adapt, execute, share, rewind. Discover, adapt, share, execute, rewind. So it's kind of tagline I put underneath my name about social media.
Right. What makes a good headshot?
I remember when I traveled to London, you know, in the UK, they don't care about headshots. They're all really, they're the worst possible picture. They're all in black and white. And I'll never forget that. It was the first thing I remembered. I think what makes a great headshot is, for me, is, and I think a headshot's really important. I do. I really think a headshot's important. There's that moment when your jaw is relaxed and that lighting is right. I could just see it. You know, I can't. It's hard to explain, but you know, when Bella, I put Bella Heathcote with a publicist before I put her with an agent, truthfully, because I knew she was so beautiful that if I got the right press, that I could use it to help her get an agent. But it was her headshot, and I knew the right person for her to go to. And there's so many ways to find that out, whether it's indoor lighting or outdoor lighting. But truthfully, I wouldn't even spend that much money. You have a friend take you down to the beach area, the right lighting, and get a great shot. And you're going to catch the eye of a casting director. I mean, Bella's photo, the first thing, I got a phone call from a casting director in London. You know, Tim Burton was very moved by her photo. I was like, whoa. You know, and that was it. So photos are really important. For me, I look for, you know, there's a way to talk to the camera without, by being really relaxed. I look for that kind of relaxed shot that isn't your typical headshot.
Anything in terms of resumes, do's and don'ts? Do you want to see a million special skills? What do you look for?
I don't really think it matters so much. Whatever you want to put down.
More questions about the
Okay.
I mean, how many people do you, I mean, are you reading the, I mean.
I am, yes. I'm getting some.
You are, yeah, I guess you are rollerblading or whatever.
Am I rollerblading?
No, you're looking at their special skills.
Yeah, right.
If they're rollerblading or.
No, I'm not interested.
Yeah, no,
In any case, you know, such as horseback riding, in case they go in for a Western.
I don't know, I look at resume, I never had a business card, never. I go to these meetings, I used to go to these meetings and you'd finish a meeting and people would hand you out a business card. I always felt like, you know, I never want to do that. I never want to do it. It's like, you know.
We have a question from social media regarding social media. Facebook, keep sending us your questions and like us, please.
He keeps going back to wanting to be liked.
I wasn't a particularly popular child.
To be liked. Can I pick up my paper again?
Can you what?
Okay.
Yes, you can peek at your
There's
paper.
one thing I want to
All
read.
right, but Harlan Groom has a question for you, and then we'll go to your paper.
Harlan.
Okay, Harlan. Regarding social media, does a YouTube channel help, hurt, or matter at all for longevity? Do you pay attention to YouTube actors?
Amy, do I pay attention to YouTube actors?
Yeah, you do.
Um,
Nice, I guess.
Yeah, because I only, as the last 6 months, am I paying attention to YouTube. I find myself watching YouTube at 11 p.m. at night. The next thing I know, it's 4.
No,
It's like, you know, but then again, I'm going back from, you know, YouTube actors to like old Led Zeppelin stuff. I'm sorry. I think that the digital world, you know, the digital world, I mean, there used to be a t-shirt at CA when I first started. All I really want to do is direct, right? This is, you know, all these digital stars, all I want to do is traditional, and all the, you know, do the traditional stars actually want to do digital now? I mean, there's actually more of them now crossing over that way as well. It's a wide open ocean now. It's like, you know, I mean, there's no rules. There's no rules. I look for people that, whether it's YouTube or a movie or a commercial, I mean, I look for things that move me. You know, commercials, by the way, are really important. I mean, you talk about a series regular role, you talk about getting work. There are indicators in life, right? So if you're booking national spots, it usually means you're about to get a guest star. And if you're booking a guest star, it usually means you're about to get some recurring parts. And if you're booking recurring parts, then it means you're about to get a series regular. But before you get that series regular, you're probably going to test for some pilots. There is a definite path that's going on, and you'll find that that's usually the course of action. The key is momentum, inertia. How do you keep the momentum going all the time?
Is there a way to do that if the agents are not seizing on that? Is there a way for the actors to keep the momentum going if they're starting to book?
You know what? I mean, is there a way to
for the actor, if they're starting to book, but their representation is not capitalizing on it? Is there a way that they?
I don't. Does that come?
That was a question.
Really? They're booking, but their agent isn't. But they're booking job. What kind of jobs are they booking?
That was actually part of my question.
I was still schwitzing at that time. I'm back.
You know, recurred on one network show, had a 4-episode arc on another show, and the lead in a film with a known actor last year, and then this year the momentum just died. And I do everything I can. I'm meeting people. I'm in class. I'm doing my job. So what else can you do to keep that momentum?
So you said in 1 year's time you booked a recurring, you booked all this, and then at that moment, what were you doing? You said you were doing your job.
So I continue. As you said, I keep moving forward. My energy is driving this train, and you're either going to get on or you're not.
Right.
I can't stop and wait for them to call. I've just written a feature that we're trying to raise money for, so I'm doing those things. Are there other things that you can do to keep that momentum going when you say here?
Well, I mean, did you know how did you get those jobs? You got those jobs through
personal relationships. 2 out of the 3 were personal relationships.
So you've been trepidatious you've been apprehensive about your representation prior to you getting those jobs. Is that correct?
Hashtag asking for a friend. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're asking. Now you book these jobs, and you're still asking. So, move reps. I mean,
yes.
If you're in the moment, right, and you have all these jobs that you're booking, you have an opportunity to seize, right? So you want to seize that opportunity, and that's when you use that leverage to find somebody who's going to look you in the eyes and say, I care.
Right. Well, which really hit home when you were talking about that and the why. I started journaling at 2 years ago every day, and it was those things where I don't need to write it down, it's in my head. But once I started writing down, and even this morning I was talking about what is my why, knowing what my why is, and knowing the message that I have here to share. It's not about me, it's about something so much bigger. So as you're speaking to that, I go, holy shit, it's the way the universe works.
Yeah, the universe works in amazing ways, but I get motivated by I get motivated by rejection. I get motivated.
Absolutely, it's just another list. It's another list. You go, all right, here we go. Yeah.
I mean, your life is like this. You know, it's going to ebb and flow. But you can your mindset and your heart can be like this, right? There's one. I'm sorry, I'm going back to my. Isn't that funny? I'm going to along those lines. There's one quote that I want to read to you, if you don't mind.
No, please.
And I love it. It's one of my favorites. Always we hope someone else has the answer. Some other place will be better. Some other time it will all turn out. This is it. No one else has the answer. No other place has the answer. No other place will be better, and it has already turned out. At the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are, and you know what you want. There is no need to run outside for better seen, nor to peer from a window. Rather abide at the center of your being, for the more you leave it, the more you learn. Search your heart and see the way to do is to be. That doesn't encapsulate everything that we're talking about just being in the moment and just knowing, you know, that it will be your time when it's supposed to be your time, you know, and using all these, but you do have to go at the negatives, and I kind of approach everything, you know, you don't, in my mind, you don't need a manager. Like, you know, that's kind of how I approach everything. That's, you know, that's my, I would say my anxiety comes from, I was trained to be an agent, right? And so there were no managers when I started. So, like, how do I make it seem like I want to be able to, like, you know, they'd be happy paying me 25%. And, you know what I mean? That's kind of in my mind how I operate. You know, you should, and there's plenty of those people out there. You know, there's plenty of people out there. So you just have to just, when it's meant to be, you'll find that right person. Wherever your mind is at, wherever your head is at, is what's going to gravitate towards you. I really believe that.
Thank you.
Final thoughts, Brian? Anything you want to share that we haven't covered, or anything you want to do?
I think I'll leave it with that last quote.
That's good. Then on that, Mr. Brian Medavoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.